This episode includes discussions of depression, suicide, and conversion therapy. Please take care while listening. The content is not intended as providing individual counseling on a professional basis. If a listener is in need of psychological counseling, they should seek help from a licensed therapist. This show is intended as information and entertainment and not as a substitute for professionally provided counseling or therapy, diagnosis, or treatment. If you're struggling, please seek help. In the U.S., you can call or text 988 for free for 24/7 support. This week on the Dance Dad with John Corella podcast, we have Nathaniel Flatt, a licensed marriage and family therapist and a former professional dancer, as well as a former boy band member. We talk about depression, how performers can handle rejection, and when he danced with Beyonce on the Oscars. You all ready to be bold and be fierce? Please welcome to the stage, Nathaniel Flatt. Hi, Nathaniel. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, John. How are you?
I'm good. I feel like my voice just changed. I got very
manly
in my voice. But
yeah,
let's start off with these 4 questions that I do. And I feel licensed. I feel like LMFT reminds me of a boy band. I don't know why. Wasn't there a boy band? LMFO.
Yeah.
So every time I say LMFT, I think of a boy band, but you could be in a boy band. Everyone who's watching.
John, I was in a boy band. Don't you remember? I was in that boy band when I met you. I was in a boy band.
What was the name of it?
It was called V Factory. You're signed with Warner Brothers.
I actually am remembering now.
Yeah.
So everyone who's just listening, you're going to have to go to YouTube or Patreon to see the boy band therapist, Nathaniel, the LMFT. But this is going to be great because I start off with these 4 questions, and in my mind, a therapist is going to hit these questions out of the ballpark because it's all about
no
feeling.
Pressure.
So the 4 questions are, and I'll do them with you too. How are you feeling? Where do you feel it? What color is it? And what is it saying? So how are you feeling this morning?
I'm feeling alive.
Alive.
Yeah.
I haven't. That's a new one. And you're probably you're in the 30s of the guests. So I've never felt that emotion. And where do you feel feeling alive?
I feel that in my shoulders and my chest.
What color is it?
It's sort of like it's glittery.
Glittery.
Sparkles. Yeah, kind of like your microphone.
I'm sure that helps. Yeah. My Swarovskis. No, they're not. Mm-hmm. These are Amazon rhinestones. What is it saying? This aliveness in your shoulders and your chest that's glittery.
It's saying hello.
Hello?
Yeah.
And I love that you closed your eyes. You're the first guest that's ever closed their eyes to answer the questions. Why did you close your eyes?
Yeah, I think it helps to kind of go into your sort of inner experience, connecting to sort of the sensations and messages that are in your body.
Okay, well, I'm going to do these with you.
Okay.
I'm going to close my eyes then. I'm going to be a good client. Is that what we're called? Even though I'm not your client. And everyone, FYI, I am not a therapist. I'm not licensed. Nathaniel is licensed. This is a conversation to hopefully help you. And if you are feeling any negative feelings, make sure you call a licensed family therapist for help. Is there any good websites for that if they wanted to reach out?
Yeah, I mean, if they're looking for just a regular run-of-the-mill type of therapist in their area, I would try something like Psychology Today. If it feels a bit more overwhelming, like they need some immediate attention, I would look up. There's a website called it's NAMI, okay. And that's for sort of like people that really need immediate attention.
I'll put those, everyone, in the show notes too, those links.
Okay.
So, how am I feeling? Excited. Yes, feeling excited. And nervous. what I've learned is that correct. We can have two emotions at the same time, right?
Yeah, and there's physiologically not a ton of difference between excitement and nervousness. So
Mm.
your body is kind of processing and dealing with it in the same way. And it's a lot of our frame that sort of points it into a certain direction.
Yeah. Even Howard Fine, who I had on the podcast, he said that the difference between excitement and nervousness for someone who's going to do a scene is just, in his opinion, breathing.
Yeah.
Nerves is where excitement, there's more breath in it. So where do I feel it? I feel it in my throat, a little bit in my upper chest. What color is it? Got to keep my eyes closed. It's a dark blue, a navy blue. And what is it saying? Just be. So I'm just being. So I know Nathaniel, everyone, why I brought on the podcast is because, yes, he was in a boy band, but also he used to dance professionally. So, to really hook in these dance moms and dance dads and dancers, not that just being a therapist is a bad thing, but they're going to love you even more for your dancing. So what jobs professionally did you do dance wise?
Well, so before this sort of boy band experience, which was a couple of years. Yeah, I did the Oscars. I did
With
a
who?
lot
What?
of
I didn't know you
what
did the
you,
Oscars.
John. This was like prime time when I was like when I first met you. Yeah, I did the Oscars one year.
With what? What did
Um,
you do? What number?
it was the one looking. It was a Rob Marshall number with Beyonce and Hugh Jackman.
What? Why am
Yeah,
I forgetting this?
I don't know. I don't know.
You know why?
Busy
Because I'm
doing
like, oh, he's a therapist. Your identity
right.
now. That must have been
Yeah.
amazing. How was that working with Beyonce?
Uh, Great. Yeah, very professional. Very
Yeah.
professional. Yeah,
Were
it
you
was it was
nervous
fun.
for that to do the Oscars?
No, not really. I don't usually get super nervous.
Hmm.
I get excited, I guess is sort of what we're saying. Yeah, not a ton of like negative nerves when I used to perform.
Wow.
Yeah,
What made you
yeah.
want to be a therapist from going from dance?
So yeah, I think looking back, I got out here and was working, enough, but you sort of hit these pinnacles and you reach these milestones. You're like, oh, I really want to do this, or this is really important. And then there's this kind of leveling out of like, okay, well, now what?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was probably after that. So after the boy band, then I ended up doing this show from New York that was on Broadway that transferred to a theater here for a few months. Was like
What show
my
was
pinnacle.
that?
It's called Follies.
Okay.
And because I had done like, I used to sing more and I was like, really, it was weird that I was in LA, but I loved theater. So that was for me like this top notch pinnacle of success. And, this like revival of this Stephen Sondheim thing. And it was like super legit. And I like kind of was miserable. I didn't like it. And I was like, if I don't really like this, I don't know what I'm going to find enjoyable. And so I just was sitting on a therapist's couch for, a number of months or years that point. And the therapist was like, well, you like coming to therapy. And, and so I thought, you know what, maybe I'll try going back to school. Maybe I'll see what that's about. And it, surprisingly is like a very creative profession. It's almost kind of like, improv or something. Like you never know what's going to be, behind the door, what the client is really going to be presenting with that day. So it's a lot about presence. It's a lot
Hmm.
about collaboration and just being open, and a lot of that sort of riding that edge of the discomfort of not knowing what's next, kind of in that sort of excitement, nervousness sort of vein. And so it's, yeah, it was a roundabout way, but I just landed in something that was, yeah, pretty interesting for me.
And being intuition as a therapist, I'm sure you have to you have to really listen to that inner guidance when someone in front of you is having an experience.
Yeah, I agree. And looking back and sort of I guess my experience as a professional dancer, I was much more comfortable with like just being told what to do, stand here, do this. And I think looking back, there was a big part of me that wasn't really, awakened
Mm.
by the artistic expression of like professional dance. And you're right, in something like therapy where I'm kind of, I mean, I'm not the leader, but I am a guide of sort. Yeah, that there's needs to be much more, yeah, connection and relationship with that inner guidance for sure.
I love that you said you're not a leader, you're someone who guides. A lot of people, maybe me in the beginning, and people that I know that don't go to therapy, think that it is more of a someone telling you what to do. So
Yeah.
maybe explain what you feel is good therapy to you.
Good therapy to me is really about the relationship between the client and the therapist. I'm a relational therapist, and what that sort of means is it sort of removes the hierarchy of like doctor patient, and it's more about collaboration. It's more about being on the journey together. It's more about bringing in, hey, I'm a person too, and I'm trying to figure life out too. So let's do it together.
And you talked about it was a metaphor or a parable
Oh, right.
of the broken
Okay.
arm.
Yeah. So like, oh, I'll just kind of, I'll say this about, like, you break your arm, you scrape your knee. There is a, inner healing intelligence that our body has, that, you know, we've all heard the metaphor, you break the bone, it grows back stronger, that sort of thing. And it's really a lot of, I think, our problems and in life are sort of like our narratives around the problems. And it's like when we get out of our own way and we allow and trust our own body, our own systems to do what they're designed to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's I find, and I believe that's where like the healing takes place.
And I'm going back to because I feel, therapists can be similar. Our brain, at least for me, not as much anymore, but if you're a therapist or a preacher or an acting teacher or someone in authority, I would automatically think or would, they're perfect. They have everything put together.
Yeah.
They don't get nervous. It sounds as you said you don't really get nervous. So and that was more season one. We talked a lot about nerves, because that's something that I've always struggled with when performing, when anything, whenever I feel like I'm auditioning, even if I'm on a date,
Mm.
like I feel like someone's auditioning me sometimes. Um, so what are some things that keep you calm, or why are you calm?
I think part of it might just be disposition. I think I run a little more like if, I kind of put people generally in these brackets of like, hey, um, are you a depressive? Are you more anxious? And I'm probably more depressive than anxious. So
Oh, this
that's
is
sort of,
perfect for the podcast. This is
yeah, yeah,
amazing because you
yeah,
are. So, on that note, let's
yeah.
talk about depression because recently I had someone that I know, unfortunately, took their life due to depression and a lot of other things that contributed to that. And I feel that depression gets a bad rap. And at least in myself, out there. It creates a lot of fear. So I felt this would be when I was going in, because I do go to therapy myself. I was when to talk about depression, there was this other part in me. My therapist uses IFS. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, internal
Yeah.
family systems.
Yeah. So to me, it's being with your feelings, people as
Hmm.
listeners, it's really just being with them. And so there was this part that was deeply afraid of the depression. And really, the depression just wants love and attention. And so I wanted to do a podcast because as people, especially dancers, we get cut in front of everyone. It's all body identified. It's like you said, you feel you're being controlled, meaning we don't really have a voice at times. So I wanted to celebrate depression. So, um, what is what is the difference between depression and sadness, Nathaniel?
Mm, that's a good question. I guess I would frame that as, sadness is maybe a more temporary emotion, or it's a feeling. And I think depression is something that, like I was saying earlier, we have a lot of baggage and meaning we make and put on these just natural, universal uh, experiences that one has in life: happiness, sadness, um, fear, stress. Um, I mean, we could keep going on. They're temporary.
But why are
And
those? Everyone's okay with talking about those, but why not depression?
well, back to what I was saying around the baggage that we place from our lived experience, our stories that we pick up from family or culture. And maybe some people are um, uncomfortable with owning and naming and being transparent about something that maybe they feel that there's a stigma around.
Do you, maybe if there's a statistical thing here, this is just a question.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do men struggle with depression a lot?
Yeah, I'm not a statistic person, but I do know that it's like that's a leading cause of death in sort of like a middle-aged man
Mhm.
is taking their own life. I think that there's so much that we play, every gender, every phase of life, it all kind of maybe has its own baggage and struggle. But I think for men, we are sometimes taught to be the person that needs to figure it out and that we're on our own, and that responsibility is a heavy weight to carry sometimes.
What's interesting is that this person that did take their life was a woman and a
Mm-hmm.
mother. So that feels jarring
Yeah.
because we assume that, at least I did, you know, that wouldn't happen, especially with someone who's a mother. So, how how and why can dancers get easily depressed?
Well, you're already touching on some stuff that is not the most supportive of, let's say, the mental health journey. Some of the demands that we place on ourselves, and something I wanted to add is like perfectionism.
Mm.
There's such a, not only with body but performance and accomplishments and jobs, and where there's a lot of external pressure.
And it's
um,
funny you said competition because a lot of people listening have their kids in, and this
mhm.
is an 18 and over podcast. So, they have their kids in dance competitions. And I feel the first time I felt depression was ironically regarding a dance competition in high school. That feeling of, well, this is different. This feeling is not sadness and go away. It just kind of lingered and
Yeah.
it was after doing Star Search, losing. And it was after losing, and messing up on stage too, in front of a lot of television. Maybe that's the
Hmm.
risk too as dancers, is when we fail in front of a lot of people.
Hmm.
Um, so I remember that first experience of feeling depressed. When in your life have you felt depressed, and how did you get through it?
So the moments that I have felt like the most down, that I look back and think, oh, I probably was more depressed than I even realized, were in that sort of search for identity after looking into, in that space of like, what do I do next? Like I was kind of done. I also forgot I kind of had a shoulder injury that I was kind of like the final, like, okay, I need to start considering something else. But like having no concept of what that is, a lot of us, I'm sure people, or it's like you just do this and you're going from job to job and you're not really thinking a lot about the future. So that was like a kind of a crisis of identity for myself. And
After wanting to leave, or when you knew your dance career was over, and what
yeah,
to do
but
next?
not knowing what else I would bring me any sort of satisfaction or what I would feel good at, or feeling really like I had to like start over. And I didn't take action for a long time because I was unsure. I didn't know. I was probably afraid to fail at something. Also, something I didn't love doing as a dancer, right? Is messing up and looking stupid and failing, right? So I was so accustomed to like practicing and rehearsing and getting it right that I wasn't comfortable in the mess. And I think life is a lot more messy than we want to sometimes admit. And I think it is hard. And these are just unavoidable parts of life. Life is work. Life takes consistent, just like going to the gym. I love gym metaphors sometimes with clients because it's like you're not going to see these changes immediately. After you're not lifting one dumbbell and immediately you have a bicep, and it takes dedication and consistency, and it's painful.
It does. And I remember recently, and it's similar to what you said. There's usually something negative that happens that can either push us on this road of depression or push us on this road of transformation. They're both painful. I always say depression felt like to me, nails on a chalkboard, that type of pain, where when I've dealt with my depression in the past, or like, oh, this could happen, it was painful, but almost a softer pain. And back to what you're saying, that it takes time, is even in breakups or divorce. I've never been married, but I'm sure some people listening have and had divorces. It was this moment of, my last breakup was super painful in 2019, where I knew, and I mentally knew, if I don't surrender to this pain and try and heal it, I will get depressed. It was like it's going to go south real quick. But recently, looking back on all that work with therapy, I felt a sense of pride of, wow, look where I'm at now, 6 years later, and how much I've learned from that point. That could have been, I guess, a negative disaster rather than a positive disaster.
How is depression good? That's what I was actually going to say, is like, sometimes I think of like the symptoms as messages. What about the dip and the low is the teaching? Where is the teachable element there? Like, what, in a way, like what aspects of your life have sort of been like, do we want to shed? What do we want to take from this and sort of like move into some like shedding of skin, the caterpillar becoming the butterfly type of thing?
I probably wouldn't be here on the podcast if I don't want to say that breakup didn't happen, but if I didn't handle the breakup the way that I did, that I wouldn't be. sitting here. So, how do we deal with, and maybe you don't know this because you probably got every single job you auditioned for. But
That is not true.
how do we deal with sadness of not getting a job or reaching a goal?
Again, I think failure is inevitable in life, not failure all the time, not failure with capital F's, but like these miniature failures. And when you say, how do I deal with it? I think I want to step back and first be curious about like, what are you assigning to the win? Like, is that your main source of enoughness or validation is in getting these jobs? And so I would first want to like focus on something like that. And so then when you find your, I guess, wholeness or identity in other places, other than just winning, being
Mm-hmm.
talented or getting a job, those types of disappointments, yeah, they hurt, but they're maybe not be, they aren't as necessarily devastating.
How do we do that when we live in a society, especially right now when there's male leaders that use the word winning all the
Yeah.
time? And winning has become more of a losing has become more of a shaming.
Well, I think we need to recognize collectively that there are aspects of our culture and society that are sick and that we
Mm.
can't take all of our cues of like how to be from the messages we get from leaders or the messages we get from media, that this is an inside job. So these are things, and or even family. Like tons of us come from families that we got all sorts of mixed up messages, and
Yeah,
yeah, and
the
so
majority.
it's inner work. It's finding
I like
worth.
that you said an inside job. It's
Yeah.
personal.
Mm-hmm.
It's personal. It's similar to when you closed your eyes,
Yeah.
in the beginning. It's a personal thing. And when you go to these dance competitions, some of them are sick. I mean, I like
Yeah.
that you said that. You're still taking part in them. Um, there's such identity. Even when I do teach kids, and I don't teach them as much, but even with people similar to your job, I try and not name people, I've said this before, by their job, like you're a therapist
Yeah.
or you're a dancer. Try and say someone who does therapy,
Mm-hmm.
someone who's dancing. Because back to what you said about identity, if we put our identity in just what we do, it's almost as though depression is inevitable.
Yeah, right. And it's also disempowering to place your value on a job or a success because, as we know, life is so volatile that you're inevitably going to have bigger dips or bigger wins. But the sort of inner work that I was talking about, the inside job, it feels, I think it's more stable. And so your anchor is from a place of consistency rather than
Mm.
outside of yourself, which is, that's what I'm saying, disempowering. It's when my worth or my feeling good is dependent on something else that I can't control.
Is that what's going on when someone is feeling depressed?
I mean, there could be a lot of different things going on, but my job as a therapist is, I guess I look at it in more of like this narrative sense, like what meaning are you making of sadness, prolonged sadness?
What meaning are you making of prolonged sadness? So
Yeah,
depression would be prolonged sadness.
yeah, the story you tell yourself about being depressed, the story you tell yourself about, and generally that's going to be negative, right? I don't like this. I'm not capable of change. I can't get
Mm.
out of this, right? These have these like negative slant that aren't going to probably give you the lift, the oomph that you need to sort of step out and change.
And depression throws a real wrench
Yeah.
in our society of being doers in capitalism in our
Right.
work. So
Yes.
it takes more, I don't want to say more courage, but maybe awareness to know that that out there is sick, like you said. I think that's why I'm doing the podcast, is to really showcase that this depression needs to be celebrated for us to move on. Did you ever see Inside Out?
I haven't seen it. Isn't that weird?
What? That's like a therapist
I know, I know,
101. They didn't
I
show it to you in
know.
school?
No. Yeah.
Well, there's, joy and sadness, and
Yeah.
joy is always trying to stifle sadness. When it's sadness is like, I just want to feel sad.
Yeah. And I think a big part of also what we're talking about, it's not about, like, let's say, what's the opposite of depression? It's not like happiness. It's maybe, I think of it more of like wholeness. And part of
Mm.
being whole is confronting these parts of yourselves that you don't want to see that exist. And as long as we are, like you're saying in this film, pushing things away or not giving them value, we're not going to feel whole. We're not going to feel like all, systems are firing.
You might have addressed this earlier, but why are people afraid of depression?
I think people are afraid of what they can't understand. I think we're afraid of pain. I think we're afraid. I mean,
Mm.
again, there's a lot of things that, again, culturally, societally, we devalue something like depression. So it's something that we don't like to talk about. So we are not familiar with
Mm.
it. But if it was maybe more normalized, I mean, that'd be one thing that would probably be helpful.
Do you feel it is getting more normalized?
I mean, I think it's more normalized as in it's like in a conversation, like we all know what we've heard of depression. I think we could do more work around conceptualizing it or dealing with it. I don't know, again, not being like a psychiatrist or in that sort of medical model. I'm not really one to think that, oh, I feel sad and I meet this criteria, so then I should go take a medication to make it
Mm-hmm.
go away. Because again, just being a therapist, and that's my bias, like I think something like depression or sadness has a lot to tell you about yourself. So if you're not numbing, but um, if you kind of skip the step of like, oh, what is this about? What in my life is contributing to this? And you just go for instant relief, you're missing some valuable information.
And back to, again, what you said, it's an inside job. Only you can know it if you feel you should take that medication. And if you feel you should take that medication, take it. And if your doctor is saying to take it, I would take it. Again, this is all an inside job. I'm not a therapist. Nathaniel's not a psychiatrist.
Yeah,
He's the
I don't have
owner
like
too.
a bias as to sort of like never take medication, but I think it's sometimes an assumption that it's going to fix everything. I think, so it's maybe more of like an over prescription than like, um, yeah, I mean, yeah, certainly
Yeah, the Dark Night
there
of,
are needs for it.
there's poems called The Dark Night of the Soul.
Mm-hmm.
We've all heard that.
Yeah,
So what does that entail? I didn't take medication when I had the breakup,
yeah,
but it was painful. But I was able to have the tools. I can be privileged. I don't have to go to work at 8 a.m.
mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things that come into play too. I have to understand my privilege of, I can sit there and be with my emotion back then when I needed to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will say well, the thing is, I wasn't depressed. I was really sad. But the sadness really pushed me into surrender. Where do you feel depression is the opposite of surrendering?
Yeah, I think that there's a resistance when we suffer, a prolonged resistance of like what is. And I think we move through these emotional experiences, we to metabolize them at a faster rate if we're just in more allowance of letting it be what it is, feeling it, noticing it, facing it. I think it I think it heals in a faster way.
And looking at the thoughts, the narrative, the
Yeah.
stories that we're saying about not getting Madonna's cowboy video, which I didn't get and I was up for, and I'm
Oh my
still
God, you have been
there.
so good in that.
What did you ever get depressed out of not getting a job?
Um, yeah, I mean, not depressed, but yeah, really bummed. But I also looking back, and this was maybe something maybe I would do over is I kind of skirted through not letting things affect me as a
Mm,
defense. So I just didn't care, which I think that maybe saved me some heartache. But I also look back and like a lot of it feels very beige. Like I
what's
didn't
funny is it clouded your aliveness that you
yeah,
said in the beginning
absolutely.
of the podcast, being alive.
Yes, I would say that for sure.
So where did you train dance? Speaking of dance, where did you train?
Oh, I mean, I'm from Tennessee, so I trained in a very like little. I started at like a little Dolly Dinkle studio. There were like no, not even near. I didn't even know what a competition was. So I was just kind of in my little bubble there, and then I just started branching out, and I would go to um, like ballet intensives in Nashville, and then I would go to Chicago to you know, other like jazz studios, stuff like that, and then I
Mm-hmm.
went to New York and then studied a Broadway dancer for a little bit. Then I went to college. There was in a a much more intensive dance training um, program, and then that's where I was really exposed to people from kind of all over the country. And that's funny enough. I didn't. I my first dance competition was until I went to college, and so then I would go to. I mean, I don't know if they're still around anymore, but like you know, LA Dance Magic or LADF and
They're still around.
oh,
LA
they
Dance
are? Okay.
Magic, Jackie
Yeah.
Flight.
So then I got one of those scholarships at LADF to train at the Edge. And so that was my first time even coming to LA was because I had you know, a 3 month of dance at Edge.
And were you on scholarship?
No, I just did that. You know, you have like 3 weeks of class or something. Because I'd already, looking back, again, if I had known that Edge was even a thing, I might have done something like that instead of going to college. But um, no, I didn't do scholarship.
So you didn't go to oh God, the Dance Factory.
No.
Anyway, they're a huge
Oh,
studio in
oh, in
Nashville.
Nashville. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. No,
they're
didn't
big
even
in
know
the
what it was.
competition
Again, I
world.
lived with somebody that trained at the Dance Factory. Funny enough, in LA later on, but never even heard of it.
Maybe I
I
think
was
there is a mom.
isolated.
There's a mom that messaged me once, and she's probably listening. Her kid goes there. They're still amazing.
Oh, great.
They're huge. They're a huge, even bigger studio. Um, do you still dance? Do you still take ballet? Do you still take class?
No, you know what? I should. You know what I'm really wanting to do? I just haven't had the time have you ever heard of inner dance? It's like
Mm-mm.
a form of, it's kind of like it's like mindfulness mixed with movement. And
Mm.
it's like really starting to connect even more so with what we were doing earlier in that exercise and having the movement come from like this more inner, it's called inner dance, like an inner intuitive place, and less about choreography or freestyling or dancing to like look attractive or sexy, or it's just much more, I guess,
That's
therapeutic.
something that was big too, probably for you too, and me was moving out here. When I moved out, it was like, oh, it's about my dancing, but it's also about looking sexy, looking good.
Yeah,
It created another pressure.
yeah. I think also back to your sort of question about working and sort of satisfaction is even when I would get stuff, I always had this layer of like, oh, it's not me, it's the way I look. So I
Mm-hmm.
never even was, I was always kind of battling that and very much insecure or questioning my skill or talent or like my contribution to it. Is it just, again, back then it was so much about, they need, 4 guys, 4 girls. So you're like fitting these boxes that it didn't feel like, oh, you're choosing me. It's like I fit this mold and that's why you want me.
So if people shouldn't, I don't like that word shouldn't. If people, see, I've learned that in therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, no, my friend Stacy
Stop
says
shitting
that.
all over yourself.
My friend Stacy says, is it her? Yeah, something. She kind of brought that to or Byron Katie. I love Byron Katie. She talks about shoulding, the word should. How would I word that without using should? Regarding identity, where do you put your identity if it's not in being a therapist? And where can other people put their identity outside of dancing, outside of acting, outside of being a mom?
Yeah. I guess I put my identity now in more of a kind of elusive gray area of like, I'm just a person and I'm trying this thing out called life. And sometimes I'm a therapist, or sometimes I'm a boyfriend or a dog dad or a brother or a friend. I'm kind of all of it. So I don't firmly, I guess, dig my heels as much into certainly my worth in a lot of these places. Like if I'm having a shit day as a therapist, that doesn't mean that I'm a terrible person, that sort of thing.
And you believe in spirit too, the Holy Spirit, or spirit,
Sure.
whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
That's where I put mine, in spirit.
Yeah.
And the
Which I
rest
think
is,
in some ways is the same. I mean, where it's, Holy Spirit inside you. So it's like a lot of the same, different nomenclature, semantics, but it's this thing within me. It's that thing, that anchor that kind of tethers this experience.
and let's talk about Hollywood and depression.
Okay.
Because
keeping me employed.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is you see these people who get everything, Heath Ledger, Robin Williams, who's the guy who was in Philip Seymour Hoffman,
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that, well, how do I say this, is that I do feel, and tell me what you think, that depression, that acting and dancing can help depression. I mean, you just talked about inner dancing. Why is there so many in Hollywood that are depressed?
There's a few things that come to mind here. First off, I think a huge, not cure, I don't want to say cure, but a huge thing to sort of combat what we're talking about here today is engaging in creativity. And again, my version of dance from, 15, 20 years ago wasn't necessarily creative. It was about validation and winning. And I'm talking about, returning back to the reason, when we first walked into the studio, or the thing that first connected us and turned us on about dance. Or hey, even before that, it's like playing in the sandbox. I'm talking about that level of curiosity and creativity and play. I think those are the actionable items that kind of can begin to forge a path into kind of a different territory or different phase. But to sort of address this part about Hollywood at large, I think this is show business. This is the center of show business. And I think it's when we begin to monetize it and we place all of these other values on creative expression, I think it can just go real sideways, because our values about what we're even doing can get very skewed.
And similar to what you said earlier, the system is sick and you're in the system of Hollywood. The other time I got depressed was when I started acting, and I realized when I was younger in the 90s, I don't think I can be gay and be successful at acting. So my identity was in outside of me.
Yeah.
That's going to make me happy. So then that created depression because, well, I'm looking out there. I don't see any gay actors. So I have to deny something so central to myself. So that's kind of interesting that you playing. And I mean, I do still act in at times when you can still play. Hey, I'm not in Honora or any of these amazing films, but you can be in those films and still play and not put your identity in Hollywood, correct?
Yeah, I would say so. I've not been in a Nora either, but I would imagine it's certainly possible. Yeah.
That's probably why they are so good at what they're doing, because
Yeah.
they're
Is there,
playing
yeah.
in this system that is monetizing them.
Mm-hmm.
So remember that, everyone. You can go and compete, whether you're at dance awards or moms, your kid is going up for dancer of the year. Play, even though everyone around you might not be, you can be there and play. And I always say it's similar to that parable where when Jesus said, seek the kingdom of heaven and don't worry about tomorrow. Okay. And then all will be given to you. Well, it's like, oh, okay, well, I want the all. So I'm going to focus on being present because I want the all. It's like, no, 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 no. Be happy with just the present and then with playing, and then the all comes. Is that what you're kind of, I don't want to put words in your mouth,
No,
but
yeah, we're saying a similar thing. And that I think when you're able to just enjoy the process in that way, it changes the intention. And that I think I see more creativity and more bolder, stronger, interesting choices coming from a place of like, I don't know, this like inner strength and playfulness and abundance than I want to be like that other person that is winning, the just creating a carbon copy of something else that already was.
and your why, not how, your why. We talked about that. We had Lennon Torres from Dance Moms on the first season, and it was about your why. What's your why? Why are you doing this? A lot of people, especially on social media, they want the spotlight. Why?
Yeah.
Why? What do they have to say? Be careful if you get that spotlight. What are you actually wanting to talk about? If the why is meaningful, I'm pretty sure it can keep depression at bay.
The other thing I would say to that is, I don't know, speaking for myself or what I hear a lot, it's like the whys are filling some void or trying to rectify some childhood wound or something, which again is probably a recipe for some sort of disaster along the way. Whereas I think the ultimate why is going to involve some level of connection or altruism or another person in some regard. And so I think in some ways
What's
that's
altruism?
altruism, like just doing good for the sake of doing good, like wanting the best for someone. And
So putting
so,
something out there without caring about how many likes you get.
yeah, yeah.
I mean,
And
I'm just trying to put it in the sense of, or how many followers you get, or because you're affecting someone at every level. Whether you go in that job on that audition or your kid is competing, you're affecting, just because you don't get first or get the job doesn't mean that you're not affecting the person in front of you
right.
on some deeper level.
Yeah. And I think what we're talking about here too is like actually really difficult to maintain. And I think that it's almost once you sort of have a more I don't know grasp on it, it's almost contagious, and it's people feel it. People can, whether or not you're sort of, you know, people can read the subtext of what's going on, I think, in people's presentation most of the time. And I don't know, I feel like I can tell where, what sort of place somebody is coming from. And yeah, I think that definitely would sort of play into acting and performing and Hollywood and dance and all that.
Is depression a part of life for everyone?
I don't know that depression necessarily is a part of life, but I would say struggle is a part of life. Uncertainty is a part of life. Pain is a part of life. And when you sort of face that and you're like, okay, this is the price of admission, this is what I signed up for. It's not, I don't want to sound glib. I just think it's almost in a way freeing when I realize, oh, I don't have to fight these feelings and experiences. And it doesn't mean I'm wrong that they're here, that they've arrived.
That I'm a failure.
Yeah. Yeah.
How can people, when they're feeling depressed, what can they do to get out of it?
I think, well, acknowledging it, naming it, stop trying to fight it so much. And yeah, really checking and being curious of your narrative about the fact that you're sad, the fact that you're depressed, the fact that you don't know what else to do. Can you speak to that experience and yourself from a place of, I guess, compassion and encouragement? And that's hard to do just solely on your own. So yeah, definitely reach out, talk to a therapist or someone, a spiritual advisor, a friend, a loved one, start talking about it. Somebody you trust.
Yes, somebody you trust, because as you know, being a gay man, if you're young and you're struggling with being gay, going to a pastor in Nashville maybe Nashville's kind of cool. So maybe you're good.
I mean, okay. I'm sure they're.
Yeah, it can make you more depressed. So that's another thing too, is, this is more for those listeners that are in the gay community, is when you're depressed over your sexuality, of who you are, and that you're not accepted by society and God. Any wisdom?
Well, that's another podcast. That's a lot to unpack. Yeah. I mean, I don't know where, there's so much to sort of I don't know where to start there.
Well, let's start with conversion therapy. That's been coming up a lot. I even saw yesterday that Meta is, I don't want to say promoting, but they are allowing ads for conversion therapy on their platforms. And, when I say stuck my toe in it, I want to say went to a guy who in the 90s who was in charge of it. I then went to a church thing that to me had elements of conversion therapy in it. So where's your stand on conversion therapy?
Don't do it. No, I don't. From what I recall, again, I'm not a big statistic person, but I don't know that, at least from like the boards of governing therapy that I know of, that it's sort of very frowned upon, and I don't think it's legitimate. So that's sort of the professional point of view about it, and the personal point of view is, yeah, that's terrible.
And I always say to straight people, moms and dads, what if you had to go to therapy to change that you're straight? Usually they kind of get it, like, oh, that's really messed up or pretty much impossible. So maybe that is another podcast, everyone, that I'm going to have, but I definitely want to start talking about.
I'd love to come back for that one.
Yeah, no, it's yes, definitely. No to conversion therapy. Yes to you coming back. I think we are nearing our act 3, act 5, our final act, whatever that is in our Broadway show. But with that, I'm going to ask you some questions, and these are just instinctual. Maybe don't close your eyes. Don't
Okay.
want you to think too hard about it. They're fun ones. They're all dance related. So, who's your favorite choreographer?
Michael Rooney.
Ooh, I want to have Michael on the
He would
podcast.
be fun. He would be a good time.
He's super talented.
Yeah.
Super, super talented. I
Interesting
tried to get him on
person.
as a judge for Abby's ultimate dance competition. He came in for an interview because he's so funny too.
Yeah. Entertaining. He gave me my first big job. So,
What was that?
Target campaign.
You know what I was going to say too, and maybe this is more of a to celebrate Nathaniel is that, and maybe you can give advice is a lot of dancers don't know how to get out. I knew how to get out of just being the dancer and you did, but good job to you doing that. What's some advice in people who feel stuck dancing?
I mean, talk about depression. It was a dark night of the soul. It was a really long unlearning process. But I also am a very not kind of like a spontaneous person or like wanting to, I'll take a sharp right or a sharp left and just feel kind of curious and like, let's see where it goes. And I think it was, yeah, it was again, I think it's part of a disposition. But feeling stuck, right? There's an element, probably a fear of the unknown. And again, with what we were talking about, life inevitably is going to be uncertain and that's part of the game. And the more you engage in that energetic dynamic, I think the more, the bigger steps you can take.
Do you miss dance? Do you miss dancing?
Sometimes I do. Yeah, I
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
So who's your favorite dancer?
Oh, my favorite dancer. I mean, that's hard. I guess you're here
Playing
in
to
front of
your
me
audience.
asking me these wonderful questions. You've pivoted in this amazing way, and I not only admire your talent, but also your spirit and your personality.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't even ask for that, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that. What is your favorite dance movie?
Oh my gosh. I loved. I think it's going to take a second, but people are going to come back to it. The new West Side Story was so
Really?
good to me. I loved it so much.
With Maddie Ziegler from
And I
Dance
didn't
Moms.
feel
She
like
was in
it,
it.
I feel like it kind of looked over or it didn't, I don't think it got the recognition it deserved.
You know, I feel because it's similar to imagine a redo of Grease. You know, something so deep that people love. You know, maybe when the older generations move on, then it'll get its heyday.
You know what's so funny? I wasn't a big West Side Story person, and I kind of went in with low expectations. I didn't really want to see it, and I just thought the way that it's that sort of how many updates have they done in just like such a terrible way? I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one, but I loved it.
I mean, I love Natalie Wood in the first one, but no, I did like that West Side Story. So I like that. Favorite style of dance?
I guess I like, I don't know,
I feel
old
like you like
jazz.
ballet,
No, old jazz, like traditional jazz.
traditional
Did they
jazz.
even make that anymore? Do people even know what that is?
Well, it would probably be like Jack Cole,
Yeah.
you know, Frank Hatchett.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, no,
The
Frank,
kind
that's,
we grew up on, like that kind.
yeah, when we wore jazz shoes with leather on the bottom.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Full sold.
I feel as though I'm a lot older than you, though, but
Wait, no,
maybe
you're
that's just,
not. Do you say how old you are?
I'm 48.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm 43. Not
Okay, yeah, not that much.
not that
I don't know
much.
why. Maybe because when I met you, I was probably 30 and you were,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
a
You've been
baby.
around a minute by when we met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Favorite Broadway show?
Um, what did I just see that was so good? I saw, there's not a lot of dancing in it, but I saw the revival of Company, it was in COVID. I like had to wear a
Ooh.
mask to see it. Patti LuPone was in it.
Oh, wow.
They like flipped the genders. So there's like supposed to be the guy, there's supposed to be a lead guy, but it was a lead girl. That was great. But in terms of like a dance musical,
I'll take the Company.
okay, great.
Yeah,
It's
I'll
good.
take the Company. Patti LuPone's in it. I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
can't throw her to the side. If you could compete a solo, what would it be to?
Oh, what song?
What song? Yeah.
This is
What
something that
star
is,
power?
oh my gosh. Ooh, something like, what do I like? Oh, these are hard. I like the therapy questions better. Like, what's the, like hide and seek? That's a old one,
Imogen
right?
Heap.
Yeah,
Is that her
yeah.
name?
Yes. It
Look at
always
you.
reminds me of dance class for some reason.
Senior solo, Nathaniel
Yeah.
Flatt, hide and seek. I see it. Um, okay,
He's welcome to the stage. Yeah.
what is the boldest thing you have done?
I think, like I didn't give myself credit in real time, but I think just coming to LA, not knowing a single person, that sort of naivete you have when you're young and innocent. But I, yeah, I I probably had like $500 in my bank account and
Wow.
just figured it out.
There you go. Do it. Follow your instincts. It's an inside job. Close your eyes and follow. Um, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast, Nathaniel. And thank you all for listening and watching Dance Dad with John Corella. Our show comes out every Thursday at 12 a.m. Eastern. We change that time. You can search for Dance Dad with John Corella on all podcast platforms and make sure to follow and download. One, it really helps the podcast going. It's a queer owned, gay owned podcast. Pride Month's coming up, so share it. Subscribe to Dance Dad with John Corella on YouTube and turn on your notifications so you never miss an episode. You can also sign up to become a member on Patreon at the only Dance Dad with John Corella to watch the on-camera footage and see the boy band member. What was the name of the boy band?
V Factory.
V Factory, as well as we have
Download our
monthly
one song on Spotify.
as well as we have monthly Zoom calls and to be a part of this bold, fierce community. Thank you, Nathaniel.
Thank you, John. So good to see you and chat.
Thank you so much for listening to Dance Dad with John Corella. Thank you to everyone at Hivecast for all that you do. And if this episode meant something to you, please share it and subscribe. Also, you can follow Dance Dad with John Corella on all platforms. But most importantly, remember to be bold and be fierce.